Sokushin Butsu, Japanese Buddhist monks practice a meditation to starve themselves to death while meditating, hence mummifying themselves alive. In medieval Japan, this tradition developed a process for Sokushin Butsu, which a monk completed over about 3,000 days. It involved a strict diet called mokujiki, literally eating a tree. The monk abstained from any cereals and relied on pine needles, resins, and seeds found in the mountains, which would eliminate all fat in the body. Increasing rates of fasting and meditation would lead to starvation. The monks would slowly reduce, then stop liquid intake, thus dehydrating the body and shrinking all organs. The monks would die in a state of jhana, meditation, while chanting the Nenbutsu, a mantra about Buddha, and their body would become naturally preserved as a mummy with skin and teeth intact, without decay and without the need of any artificial preservatives. The Boston Molasses Disaster of 1919. A storage tank containing 2.3 million gallons of molasses burst, sending a wave of molasses through the streets of Boston and killing 21 people, while another 150 were injured. One fine January morning in 1919, the temperature had risen to 40 degrees Celsius, climbing rapidly from the frigid temperatures of the preceding days. This resulted in the rivets of a 50ft high molasses storage tank at the Purity Distilling Company in the northern end of the city getting loose and finally leading to the tank burst open. What followed was a 25ft high tidal wave of black goo with a density of 1.4 tons traveling at the speed of 56 km/h, which was enough to rip buildings off their foundations. Two-thirds of Soviet men born in 1923 didn't survive the war. Though some accounts claim 80% of Soviet men born in 1923 died during the war, Mark Harrison, professor at the Department of Economics at the University of Warwick, crunched the numbers and came up with a lower but still staggering figure. Around two-thirds, more exactly, 68% of the original 1923 male birth cohort did not survive World War II. There were nearly 600 plots made by CIA to assassinate Cuban communist leader Fidel Castro. The Church Committee stated that it substantiated 8 attempts by the CIA to assassinate Fidel Castro in 1960-1965. Fabian Escalante, a retired chief of Cuba's counterintelligence who had been tasked with protecting Castro, estimated the number of assassination schemes or actual attempts by the Central Intelligence Agency to be 638, a project codenamed Executive Action, and split them among U.S. administrations as follows: Dwight D. Eisenhower, 38, John F. Kennedy, 42, Lyndon B. Johnson, 72, Richard Nixon, 184, Jimmy Carter, 64, Ronald Reagan, 197, George H.W. Bush, 16, Bill Clinton, 21. Chickens were domesticated for entertainment, cockfighting, not food. The activity seems to have been practiced in the Indus Valley Civilization from 2500–2100 BC. In the process of domestication, chickens were apparently kept initially for cockfighting and only later used for food. Hitler, Mussolini, and Stalin were all nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. Yes, all 3 dictators were nominated for Nobel Peace Prize, but none of them was shortlisted, and therefore neither of the 3 got the prize. Mussolini was nominated in 1939, and so also Hitler in the same year. Stalin was nominated twice, in 1945 and then in 1948. Jokey, who can win only when he is dead. In 1923, the 22-year-old Frank Hayes had never won a race before, as by profession he was not a jockey, but a horse trainer and stableman. The horse, called Sweet Kiss, was owned by Miss A.M. Frayling. Hayes died in the latter part of the race, and his body remained in the saddle when Sweet Kiss crossed the finish line, winning by a head, making him the first and so far only jockey known to have won a race after death. In 1961, the U.S. Air Force dropped 2 active nuclear bombs over North Carolina. The 1961 Goldsboro B-52 crash was an accident that occurred near Goldsboro, North Carolina, United States, on 24 January 1961, a Boeing B-52 Stratofortress carrying 2 3.8 megaton Mark 39 nuclear bombs broke up in mid-air, dropping its nuclear payload in the process. The pilot in command, Walter Scott Tulloch, ordered the crew to eject at 9,000 feet. 5 crewmen successfully ejected or bailed out of the aircraft and landed safely. Another ejected but did not survive the landing, and 2 died in the crash. Information declassified since 2013 has showed that one of the bombs was judged by nuclear weapons engineers at the time to have been only 1 safety switch away from detonation, and that it was credible to imagine conditions under which it could have detonated. The Children's Crusade of 1212. A boy begins to preach in either France or Germany, claiming that he had been visited by Jesus, who instructed him to lead a crusade in order to peacefully convert Muslims to Christianity. Through a series of portents and miracles, he gains a following of up to 30,000 children. He leads his followers south towards the Mediterranean Sea, in the belief that the sea would part on their arrival, which would allow him and his followers to walk to Jerusalem. This does not happen. The children are sold to 2 merchants, Hugh the Iron and William of Posquerez, who give free passage on boats to as many of the children as are willing. The pilgrims are then either taken to Tunisia, where they are sold into slavery by the merchants, or else die in a shipwreck on San Pietro Island of Sardinia during a gale. World record in cannibalism. Ratu Udre Udre was a Fijian chief. He is listed by Guinness World Records as most prolific cannibal. During the early 19th century, he reportedly ate between 872 and 999 people. The total of 872 was based on a row of smallish stones extending about 200 yards near where Udre Udre lived, with each stone placed by Udre Udre to account for a person he had eaten. Udre Udre is believed to have been shot and killed by Fiji government officials in 1840. However, the manner of his death is still undocumented.